Captain Elias Trent had never flown this deep into alien territory before. His small human starfighter was shaking, its engines half-burned, warning lights flashing all around him. Behind him, the remains of his squad floated in space gone. Only he had made it out alive. The enemy ship that hit him was long gone, but his systems were failing. The navigation unit sparked. Life support was weak. And worse, his ship was falling toward a strange blue-green planet below. "Come on, hold together," Elias whispered, gripping the controls. The planet was not marked on any human map, but he had no choice. Crash here or die in space. He aimed, the nose of the ship down, and prayed. The crash was hard. The ship broke through thick clouds, flew over strange glowing forests, and slammed into the rocky edge of a mountain. Metal crumpled, glass shattered, and Elias's head hit the console. Everything went dark. He awoke to soft voices, strange language, cool air brushing his face. Elias blinked. He wasn't dead. He was lying in a smooth silver bed, high-arched. Ceilings stretched above him, glowing gently like moonlight. Strange flowers floated in clear jars beside his bed. The air smelled sweet and calm. Then he saw them dash aliens, tall. Beautiful figures with glowing silver eyes and pale purple skin stood around him. They wore robes with gold threads. And among them stood someone even taller, someone different. She wore a crown. Her long silver hair fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were soft but strong. She looked down at him, not with hate, but with deep curiosity. This was the queen. Elias tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body. The queen raised her hand, and a soft voice, clear and beautiful, spoke in near-perfect English. "Do not move. You are injured. Let the healing continue." Elias stared at her. "Speak English?" "I learned it years ago," she said. "Your people have become interesting." He blinked again. "Where am I?" The queen stepped closer. "You are on Velarun, our homeworld. No human has ever set foot here, until now." Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. Elias struggled to understand. "Why didn't you kill me?" One of her guards, a stern alien male with glowing eyes, stepped forward. "We should have. He is the enemy." But the queen raised her hand. "Enough." She turned her gaze back to Elias. "I made a choice." She leaned forward just slightly. "Tell me, human. Why did you come here alone?" Elias coughed. "I didn't mean to. We were ambushed. My team all gone. I was trying to survive." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Fought well. Our ships took damage. You were only one man, yet you brought down 3. Elias looked away. It wasn't bravery. It was just luck. The queen smiled faintly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps something more." He watched her as she turned away, her long gown trailing behind her. She whispered something to her guards in her own language. Then she looked back at him once more. "You are not a prisoner, but you are not free. Rest, heal. We will speak again." Days passed. Elias remained in the healing chamber, slowly gaining strength. The technology here was strange, gentle energy fields, glowing medicines, and silent caretakers. He still didn't understand why they helped him. Each day the queen returned. She brought books translations of their language. She asked questions. About Earth. About humans. About him. At first, Elias gave short answers. But over time he grew curious about her too. "What's your name?" he asked one day. She looked surprised. "You do not know?" Elias said honestly. "Was never told who rules Velarun." She smiled. "I'm Queen Ilyara Velaris, first of her name, keeper of the flame, ruler of the 9 moons." "That's a long title," Elias joked. She actually laughed a soft, graceful sound. "You may call me Ilyara." "Ah," she said. That was the first time she treated him like something more than a guest or enemy. She treated him like a man. They began to talk. More freely after that, she told him about the stars her people controlled, about the ancient Velari Empire and its powerful armies, about how they once believed humans were weak and wild, but now feared their growing strength. Elias told her about Earth, about its oceans and deserts, its cities and chaos, its music and dreams. Got about the war, the pain of losing his friends, the fear of death, the will to fight anyway. You are very human, she said softly one day. Is that good or bad? I don't know, she said, but it is different. One evening, Elias stood by a wide window. Strength had returned enough for him to walk with help. Outside, twin moons glowed above a silver forest. The queen stood beside him. Her eyes reflected the moons. Do you know why I saved you? She asked. Elias looked at her. Because I'm the first human here. She shook her head. Because the moment I saw you lying in that wreckage, bleeding and broken, you looked at me, not as a queen, not as an alien, but as a woman. Elias blinked, surprised. I didn't mean to disrespect, no, she interrupted gently. You saw me. They stood in silence for a moment, then she added, her voice softer than ever. No one has looked at me like that in a very long time. But not everyone in the palace was pleased. Outside the chamber, out in the grand halls of the royal court, whispers began to grow. The queen was becoming distracted. The human had become dangerous. And somewhere deep in the shadows of Velaroon, powerful voice spoke. The queen must remember her duty, or she will lose her throne. Captain Elias Trent had been on Velaroon for over a week now. His wounds had healed, and his strength was slowly returning. But his mind was still filled with questions. Why was he still alive? Why was Queen Ilyara being so kind to him? Why did she keep coming back to see him? Each day, she visited. Not as a ruler, not with guards or weapons, but as someone who truly wanted to talk. They spoke about many things. About war, about peace, about the stars. She was curious about Earth, its people, its cities, and its strange ways. In return, she told him stories about her homeworld, her childhood in the floating cities, and the long history of the Valari Empire. But the more they talked, the more Elias began to notice something. She looked tired, not just physically, but in her soul. One quiet evening, they sat in the royal garden. Giant glowing plants surrounded them. The sky above was deep purple, with 3 small moons shining down. A soft breeze blew through the air. Ilyara sat beside Elias on a smooth white bench. She looked up at the stars. You know, she said softly, when I was a child, I believed the stars were full of peace. Elias looked at her. What changed? She gave a small, sad smile. I became queen. She paused for a moment. Then she turned her eyes to him. There is something I must tell you, she said, but it must stay between us. Elias nodded. I'm listening. She took a deep breath. There is an old prophecy, very old, passed down by our priests. It speaks of an outsider, someone from the stars who will come to Velaroon in a time of war. Someone who carries both sorrow and fire in his eyes. He will stand between peace and destruction. Elias blinked. You think? That's me. Ilyara did not answer. Shh. She simply looked at him for a long time, her eyes filled with a strange emotion. I don't believe in prophecies, Elias said quietly. I believe in people, in choices. So do I, she said. But some of my people do believe in it. They fear what it means. At the same time, in the deeper levels of the palace, another voice was growing louder. Lord Zeevil, the queen's top war advisor. He had served the Valari throne for decades, and he had never trusted humans. Not before. Not now. She's blinded, he whispered to the generals. This human has filled her mind with weakness. She spends hours with him while our enemies grow stronger. Others nodded. They didn't dare speak against the queen directly, but Lord Zeevil had power. He had soldiers loyal to him. And he wanted Elias gone. Soon, back in the queen's chamber, Elias sat with Ilyara, watching the stars move slowly across the sky. You said your people think we're dangerous, he said. Why? 'Cause humans are not like the others. Ilyara said, you adapt. You survive. You grow stronger under pressure. We call your kind the flame that refuses to die. Elias smiled weakly. It sounds poetic. It is not a compliment, she replied. Most of the galaxy fears fire. There was silence between them. Then Elias said something that surprised even him. I don't want to fight anymore? Iliara looked at him. I'm tired, he continued. Tired of war, of killing. I lost too many friends. It's too many good people, and now, crash here, and instead of death, I find you. She turned to him. And what do you see in me, Elias? He looked into her glowing eyes. I see someone who doesn't want to fight anymore either. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Iliara said softly, maybe the prophecy is wrong. Maybe peace doesn't come from war. Maybe it comes from two people talking. Like this. But peace was still far away. Later that night, while Elias rested, a shadow moved through the palace halls. A figure in dark armor slipped past the guards and crept toward the guest wing. The assassin carried a blade coated in poison, silent, fast, and loyal to Lord Zeevil. Ilias's room was dark. He lay in bed, half asleep, when he heard the faint sound of footsteps. His eyes opened instantly. Years of military training kicked in. He rolled to the side just as the blade came down. The knife cut into the bed where his chest had been. Elias grabbed the lamp beside his bed and smashed it into the attacker's face. The figure stumbled back, growling in pain. Elias lunged forward and tackled him, both of them falling hard to the floor. The assassin raised the knife again, but a loud voice shouted, "Stop!" Guards rushed in. The attacker tried to escape, but he was quickly surrounded. One of the queen's elite guards stood over him, pulling off the mask. What is the meaning of this? The guard growled. Elias stood, breathing hard, blood on his arm. He tried to kill me. Minutes later, Queen Iliara arrived. She looked at Elias with chagrin. Something else fear. Not for herself. For him who sent the assassin. She demanded. The guards looked uneasy, but Elias already knew. Zeevil, he said. He's making his move. Iliara clenched her jaw. Dare strike inside my walls. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. She turned to Elias. You're not safe here anymore. Thought I was never safe, he said with a weak smile. She didn't smile back. I will handle this, she said. You rest now. But Elias could feel it in her voice. Things were changing. The palace was no longer just a place of peace. War had followed him here too. Later that night, Elias lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Ow. His arm throbbed with pain. But that wasn't what kept him awake. It was the look in Liara's eyes. She wasn't just angry, she was afraid of losing him. And for the first time since the crash, Elias felt something more than pain, more than duty. He felt connected to her. The palace of Velarun was no longer quiet. After the assassination attempt on Captain Elias Trent, tension spread through the royal halls like fire through dry leaves.
Ow.
Servants spoke in hushed voices. Guards stood alert at every corner. The queen's advisors watched each other with suspicion, but the one who remained calm was Queen Iliara. On the outside, she moved like a ruler, graceful, strong, unshaken. But inside, her heart was storming. Elias had almost died. And for the first time in her long reign, fear touched her heart, not for herself, not for her people, but for him. She summoned the High Council that morning. The 12 nobles stood around the tall silver table. Lord Zeevil, dressed in dark armor, stood across from her. His face cold and proud. A human survives here under our roof, Zeevil said loudly. And now assassins walk our halls. This is weakness, Your Majesty. Iliara's voice was calm. No, this is betrayal. Zeevil raised an eyebrow. Then let me speak clearly. The human must go. Send him back to his kind. Or your people will believe you've forgotten where your loyalty lies. Whispers moved through the council. Some agreed. Some stayed silent. But Iliara did not back down. My loyalty, she said, her voice sharp, is to peace, to truth, and to the future of the Velari people. Then you are blind, Zeevil snapped. He turned and walked out without waiting for permission. The queen did not stop him, but she knew. The true danger had begun. That afternoon, Elias stood in the Queen's private garden. He was stronger, now walking without help. He wore a simple Valari tunic instead of his human uniform. He looked up as Ilyara entered, her long robes trailing behind her. Her face was soft, but her eyes held sadness. "You look better," she said. Elias nodded. "I feel better. But something's wrong, isn't it?" She sat beside him. "Svel is moving faster than I thought. He wants power. He knows he can take it if he makes the people fear me. Because of me." She nodded. Elias looked down. "Maybe I should leave." Ilyara turned sharply. "No," he met her eyes. "You are not the problem, Elias. You are the truth they don't want to face. You came here broken. You offered no violence. And yet they want you dead. Because you show them a different path." He sighed. "I'm just a soldier."
Oh.
She whispered. "You're more." Later that night, Ilyara did something she hadn't done in years. She left the palace with no guards. She took Elias with her. They rode in a quiet hovercraft through the silver forests of Velaroon. Bright glowing leaves shimmered in the night. Wind, strange bird-like creatures flew overhead. They stopped near an ancient stone tower, half covered in vines. It was a forgotten place, an old Valari sanctuary. "What is this place?" Elias asked. "This is where past queens came to find clarity," Ilyara said. "Before war, before violence, they came here to listen." "Listen to what?" "To the silence," she said. They stepped inside. The walls were carved with old words, forgotten prayers, and star maps. It was quiet, peaceful. They sat on the floor near a small pool of glowing water. The soft light reflected in Ilyara's eyes. "I came here before I took the throne," she said. "I was afraid. I never told anyone that before." Elias looked at her. "You're the strongest person I've met," she smiled. "Strength can hide fear." He nodded. "I know." They were quiet for a while. Then she spoke again. "I never had time for friends or love. I was raised for duty, for power, for endless war. But you see me differently." "I see you," Elias said softly. "Not the crown, not the robes, just you." Her eyes shimmered. "Why? Do you care?" He leaned closer. "Because when I thought I was going to die, it was your face I saw." Back at the palace, Lord Zeval gathered his loyal generals. In secret, they formed plans. "The people grow restless," one said. They whisper of weakness, of strange affection between the queen and the human." Zeval nodded. "Then it is time we take the throne. The human dies. The queen steps down or is removed. What if she resists?" another asked. Zeval's voice was like ice. "Then she will regret it." Meanwhile, in the sanctuary, Ilyara and Elias sat beside each other. She looked at him closely. "Elias, if I asked you to leave this planet to run, would you do it?" "No," he said at once. "Not without you." Her eyes widened. "I came here by accident," he continued. "But now, I don't want to leave. Not because of war, not because of orders, but because I've found something worth staying for." She touched his hand. Her skin was warm, soft. "I don't want you to leave either," she whispered. He smiled. Then suddenly, boom, a deep rumble shook the sanctuary. Elias jumped. To his feet, Ilyara stood quickly.
Outside.
In the sky above the trees, flames rose in the distance. "That came from the palace," she said, her voice sharp. She pressed a small device on her wrist. "No signal. We're being jammed," she said. "It's veils." Making his move, Elias clenched his fists. "We need to get back." They ran to the hovercraft and sped through the forest. Smoke filled the sky. Strange blue fire burned in the trees. When they reached the city gates, chaos had already begun. Soldiers clashed in the streets. Airships flew overhead. The queen's banners were being torn down. "Zeval's staging a coup," Ilyara said. "He's declared me unfit." Elias looked around. "What do we do?" She turned to him. "We fight." They entered the palace through a hidden side path deep underground. Ilyara knew every turn. Soon, they reached the royal vaults, where Her elite guards, those still loyal, were waiting. The captain of her guard bowed. "Your Majesty, we feared you were dead." "Not yet," she said. Elias stepped beside her. "Let's make sure she stays that way." The guards stared at him, this human, who had once been their enemy, but now he stood beside their queen. And their queen trusted him, so they trusted him above them. Lord Zeevil stood in the royal throne room, giving orders. "Search every hall, find her, and bring me the human's head." He sat on the throne, smiling coldly. "This empire belongs to the strong," he said, "and I will show the galaxy that strength has returned." Back below, Iliara turned to Elias. "This may be the last night of my rule," she said. He shook his head. "No, it's the night we take it back." She smiled faintly. "You really believe in me?" He looked her in the eyes. "I do." Smoke filled the skies above the Velaroon palace. The once beautiful towers now burned with blue fire. People ran through the streets in panic. Loyal guards fought rebel soldiers. The banners of Queen Iliara were being ripped down and replaced by the dark mark of Lord Zevel, inside the secret passage under the palace. Queen Iliara stood with her few loyal guards and one human captain, Elias Trent. She looked at them all. Her voice was calm but full of power. "Zevel has betrayed us. He has turned my own people against me. But I will not let him take my throne with lies and fear." Elias nodded. "Then let's take it back." The plan was simple, but dangerous. Iliara would go to the throne room, the heart of the palace. There, she would stand before the people and the soldiers, showing them she was still alive. Elias and the guards would clear a path, protect her, and hold the line. "Once the people see you," Elias said, "they'll remember who their real queen is." She looked at him, her silver eyes softening for a moment. "You are not one of us, yet you stand with me." "I stand with you," he said. "Not your crown." They moved fast through the hidden tunnels. Explosions rocked the halls above them. One by one, they came up through a broken wall near the palace gardens. Flames had touched even this quiet place. The beautiful flowers were scorched. But Iliara walked past them without pause as they reached the outer gates of the throne room. A group of rebel soldiers blocked their path. "Halt!" One shouted. "Lay down your weapons." "The queen has been removed." Elias stepped forward. "She's right here, alive." The soldiers looked shocked, but before they could act, Iliara stepped ahead of Elias. "I am Queen Iliara Valeris," she said in a strong voice. "If you still follow the Valari code, then you will stand down." Some soldiers lowered their weapons. One did not. He raised his blaster and fired. Elias moved without thinking. He jumped in front of the queen, pushing her back as the shot hit him in the side. Pain exploded through his body and he dropped to the ground. "Elias!" Iliara screamed, kneeling beside him. Her guards rushed forward and captured the shooter. Elias coughed, blood on his lips. "I'm okay," he muttered. "Just a scratch." It was not a scratch. The blast had burned deep into his ribs. "You're not okay?" she whispered, her hands pressing against the wound. "Don't you dare die." "Not now." He tried to smile. He said we had to fight. "I didn't mean like this," she said, tears in her eyes. She called 2 guards. "Carry him to the medical wing. Keep him alive." "That is an order." As they lifted Elias, he grabbed her hand weakly. "You can still stop Zevel," he whispered. "Go." With a heavy heart, Queen Iliara entered the throne room. Lord Zevel sat upon her throne, surrounded by his rebel generals. The room was filled with soldiers, some loyal, some not. The air was tense. Gasps filled the hall as Iliara walked in, her royal robes torn by battle, her crown still shining. "She's alive." "Impossible." Zevel stood. "You should have stayed dead." Iliara raised her voice, strong and full of fire. "I am the true ruler of Velaroon." "You sit on my throne with blood on your hands?" Zevel laughed coldly. "Your rule is over. These people need strength, not weakness. You waste time with humans. You forget what we are." "No," she said. "I remember what we are. We are more than war, We are more than power. I will not let you turn us into monsters. The room was silent then. Slowly, some soldiers began to lower their weapons. Others looked between Zevil and Ilyara. Sure. Zevil drew his blade. Then prove. You are strong enough to stop me. Meanwhile, in the Royal Medical Wing, Elias fought to stay awake. The pain in his side was sharp, but he kept whispering one thing over and over. She needs help. I have to get to her. The healers tried to stop him, but Elias pushed through. The pain tied his wound tightly and forced himself to stand. He picked up a fallen blaster and limped back into battle in the throne room. Ilyara and Zevil circled each other, blades drawn. The sound of steel echoed through the hall. Zevil was bigger, stronger. But Ilyara was fast. Focused, he struck hard. She dodged, he swung again. She blocked, but Zevil's power was growing. He pushed her back, blade flashing. Her arm was cut. Blood ran down her sleeve. You were never strong enough, he hissed. Then why are you afraid? She shot back. He growled and raised his sword for the final strike. Bang! A blaster shot rang out. Zevel stumbled behind him, stood Elias. Shaking, bleeding, barely able to stand, but still holding the blaster, the room froze. Zevel turned slowly and Ilyara drove her blade into his chest. His eyes widened in shock. He fell to his knees, and then to the floor dead. The throne room was silent. Then, one by one, the soldiers dropped to their knees. For the queen, someone whispered. For Velaroon, another said. Ilyara stood tall, blade still in her hand. She turned to Elias, who was now leaning against the wall, breathing hard. She ran to him, catching him before he fell. Elias, you're hurt worse. You should have stayed down, I said. I'd stand with you, he whispered. She held him close. Don't die on me, not now, please. Later that night, the fires were put out. The city calmed. Zevil's forces were defeated or captured. Elias lay in the Royal Medical Wing once more. His wound was deep, but this time he was being treated by the best Valari healers, and beside him, holding his hand, was Queen Ilyara. He opened his eyes slowly. You're still here? He said weakly. Of course I am, she whispered. He smiled. Did we win? She smiled back. We did. But then her voice shook. I thought I lost you. Elias reached out, touching her cheek. You didn't. Leaned closer, eyes shining. Please don't die, she whispered again. I need you. He smiled again. Then I'll stay. And this time, he meant it. The fires were out. The skies were clear again. The people had returned to the streets, though they still moved carefully, their eyes watching every corner. The war was not over, but the battle for the throne had been won. Inside the Royal Medical Wing, Elias Trent opened his eyes slowly. He felt the soft hum of machines, the warmth of healing lights, and the quiet sounds of alien voices speaking calmly. His body ached, but the pain was dull now, not sharp like before. And then he saw her queen, Ilyar, sitting at his bedside, her hand holding his. You're awake, she said softly. He smiled weakly. Still here. She smiled too, but there was sadness in her eyes. You almost died again, she whispered. You're making a habit of it. Elias chuckled. Guess I just like the attention. But Ilyara didn't laugh. I thought I'd lost you, she said again, her voice shaking, and I realized, I can't go back to the way things were. Elias looked at her, his voice quiet. What do you mean? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood and walked to the window. The silver forests of Velaroon stretched far into the distance. Twin moons floated above the horizon. The wind blew gently against the glass. I was born to lead, she said. Taught to rule with strength. Trained never to show weakness. And yet, when I saw you bleeding in my arms, all I wanted was to save you. Elias sat up slowly, ignoring the pain. You did save me. She turned to face him, but not just your body. You saved something in me too, something I thought I had buried a long time ago. Later that day, Ilyara stood before her people. A great gathering was held in the central plaza, beneath the glowing towers of the city. Soldiers, civilians, workers, and nobles all gathered to hear her speak. She wore a new gown, pure white, with golden threads, her crown polished and shining. But her voice was what held the people's hearts. Velaroon has suffered. She began. Our trust was broken. Our peace was stolen by one of our own, people murmured. Everyone remembered Lord Zevil's betrayal, but we did not fall, she continued, because we stood together, because we chose courage over fear. Because one man, an outsider, a human, fought for us when he could have run. All eyes turned to Elias, who stood at the edge of the platform. Dressed in clean Valari robes, his arms still wrapped, but his head held high. I owe him my life, Ilyara said. So does this empire. She paused. And now I make a choice. The crowd held its breath. I choose peace with Earth. I choose unity over war. And I choose to follow a new path, one built not on conquest, but on hope. A long silence followed. Then, slowly, applause began, then cheers, then roars of support. The people accepted her words, and for the first time in years, hope truly returned to Velaroon. That evening, Elias walked with Ilyara through the royal gardens. The plants had begun to bloom again. Healing energy from the planet's core had started restoring the damage. I can't believe they cheered, Leah said, still amazed. They want peace more than they admit, Ilyara replied. You reminded them of that. He looked at her. So, what now? She stopped walking and faced him. That depends on you, me. You have a home to return to. A planet. People who probably think you're dead. He was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. I don't think I belong there anymore. She looked into his eyes. And do you think you belong here? He nodded. If you'll have me. I. Ilyara reached out and took his hand. I already do. In the days that followed, things changed quickly. The news of peace spread through the galaxy. The Valari sent a message to Earth, offering talks, trade, and alliance. At first, humans were suspicious. But when they learned about Elias and what he did, their leaders agreed to send ambassadors. Ilyara was praised for her wisdom and strength. Many called her the greatest queen in Valari history, but she didn't care about the titles. Every night she returned to Elias, and every night they sat under the stars together, quietly enjoying each other's presence. One night, under the glowing moons, Elias looked up at her. You know, he said, when I crashed here, I thought I was going to die. She smiled gently. So did I, but I found something here, something I never expected. What do you? She stepped closer. And I found you. He took her hands in his. Not just as a queen, not just as someone to protect. Someone I love. Her eyes shimmered. And I love you too, Elias Trent. Even if our stars were never meant to cross. I'm glad they did. Time passed. A year later, Elias stood at the side of Queen Ilyara as her royal consort. Wearing armor made by the finest Valari craftsmen, he no longer looked like a broken pilot, but a warrior, a leader, and a symbol of unity. He worked closely with both human and alien diplomats, building trust between species, and he stayed by her side always. Many stories were told across the galaxy about the human who survived the Valari, world about the queen who chose love over war. But those who were there remembered something else, a moment in the fire, a whisper in the dark, when the alien queen leaned close to a broken man and said 4 words, "Please don't die, Elias." Because of that moment, everything changed.